Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me here today. I have with me Elliot Ikilei uh, for the New Conservatives. He is the deputy leader. How about you introduce yourself, Elliot?
G'day Leighton, yes, whakawhātu, kia ora. My name is Elliot Ikilei and I am the Deputy Leader of New Conservative.
Awesome. All right. So I think with the limited time we have today, I think I just want to get right into it. I think today, I think that I'm gonna just stick with the economics of the New Conservatives because I think that's always the most important in a lot of aspects. So I think we'll start with taxation. So I'm on the website now, and I'm just going to read off a little bit of what you've said. So it says, if the people prosper, the nation will prosper. Everything leading to the just prosperity must be supported, and everything undermining prosperity must be challenged. New Conservatives believe in a new, simple, fair taxation system, devoid of loopholes that can be exploited. Tax should meet the following expectations. It should be fair, easier to collect, hard to avoid, and very predictable for the government. The current system does not meet these requirements. Then it goes on to talk about the ETT tax system of about 0.5% on every banking transaction. And it goes on to say that it could replace income tax and will definitely replace GST. So I was just wondering, what's the economics on that? Like, what's the viability of that?
So we've actually been discussing that particular one a lot lately over the past 4 or 5 months actually, and it's one of those things that would be really awesome if everyone did. However, we don't live in that type of world. So we've been looking at it and we will be rephrasing it quite soon. That is something that we want to look at as a possible addendum or something to put into our tax policy. But we want to look at a couple of other parts as well, for example, following things like the inflation rate as well. And so you've just sort of coined onto the policy that we are right now discussing in terms of amending a little bit on.
All right, that sounds good. No, the reason I ask is because I done the math because I was thinking, like, I can't come on here and look at it and not do the maths on it. And looking at the economics, I mean, the best I got was about $750 million for...
Yeah, there definitely are a few numbers floating around there. When we were discussing this as a board, and when we were having certain people coming on to give us a hand with how to build it, it was a discussion of the tax policy. I would probably avoid only because it's the one big one that we're actually looking at amending right now. So it's also that you jump onto it. It's also one that we are actually going to change a little.
Yeah. Well, that sounds good, and I'd love to have a look at it when you do change it, because it's one thing I love is just looking at taxes and money and everything like that. So.
Everyone likes money.
Absolutely. So let's jump into welfare. Firstly, I want to ask, what do you think the role of welfare is, if any?
Well, welfare is actually a big part of our system, and I'm just trying to think if I want to go philosophical or we'll just go brief. I think we'll just go brief at this stage anyway. The idea of it is actually that we're actually a nation who identify as Western culture. There are the Western culture countries, nations that there are. And part of that is, of course, the combination of the ancient Greek democracy and Judeo-Christian values and principles. So part of those values and principles is the idea that we do make sure that we look after everyone to a degree. We look for hand-ups, not handouts, and that's a really big part of our welfare system. Unfortunately, how our welfare has become, and this is one that I'm very viciously opposed to, is we now actually have disempowered a lot of people. We have done the opposite to what it was supposed to do. And you've got a lot of people out there who now struggle to make their head above the parapet, as it were, because why do I need to? All I need to do
Yeah, I agree. And unfortunately, when you look at the statistics, it actually doesn't hurt, how do I say it? European ethnically inclined people as much as it does the minorities. And a lot of people would say that, you know, maybe everyone else who would think that way would be racist. But when you look at the numbers, that's just the case, and it's sad. It's like it gets you
Right.
it gets you wondering if the system was put in place to do that in some senses, if you know what I mean.
I think the best. I mean, I'm not a big fan of getting into conspiracies and all that sort of stuff. However, what I will say is that when you look at social stats and the lowering of the groups who are in the lowest social stats, of course we would be looking at Maori, at Pacifica, sort of people in group. Now, part of that is I would say the ethnic inexperience, or rather the group inexperience when it came to the neoliberal policies that came out in the mid-'80s by the fourth Labour government, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So when you had Asians who had 4,000 years of economics and Europeans with millennia, we're talking thousands of years of experience, where whole families would die if they were not able to understand and to be strong in those economics, then what we had is a grouping who were okay, where the government was a lot better at allowing free trade and free movement without taking the regulations fully off, which then engaged us with things like debt trucks, loan sharks, and all the rest of it. So we've got that element of it. The other element of it, of course, is the policies that have worked to fracture and dismantle our family unit, our traditional family unit that we've had for so many years. And so when you look at the social statistics of those groups who now are in the lowest, what we can actually find is if benefits helped out, then what you would find is at least that groups are getting better. But we don't. We actually find the opposite. We actually find that many groups are actually going downwards in the downward trend as opposed to an upward trend.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you can combine that, I know this is getting all tangenty, but you can also combine that with affirmative action policies, where Pacifica Māori are given free stuff on top of welfare benefits and the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we still further become disempowered and further become disenfranchised and resentful and all the other social and psychological byproducts from that. So when we do talk about welfare, again, the idea is to make a welfare that it really is a hand up, not a hand out. And it's easy to say, obviously it's very easy to say, but we need to actually do something which has an edge to it, as opposed to what it is now, where you can just go in there with a whole lolly basket and actually get a lot of money. And I'll give this as an anecdote as well, is that years ago I went out with a girl and she had 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
She actually worked part-time at an accountant's firm. She was doing some part-time work there as a secretary. She really wanted to work full-time, but she could not, because if she worked full-time, excuse me, she worked full-time, then she would be cut out of her benefits. It was actually more beneficial for her to work shorter hours than it was to actually work a full-time job. And that already suggests that something's wrong. And that's going back, around 20 years ago.
No, yeah, that's what has started to happen in our culture, and it's not. It's kind of paralleling the Roman Empire, where they ended up having to legalize quitting your job because too many people were quitting their job to go on to their welfare system.
Yes. Yep.
And yeah, so I really don't like that. Do you think it would be advantageous to eventually, not straight away, because I think that would be quite dangerous actually, to eventually get rid of the welfare system?
That's a big topic. No, I think that there should always be a welfare system.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we don't carry on and leave them in the dirt. We look back, we grab them up by the scruff of their neck. Come on, mate, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to have a system that has that type of character within it. Now, I understand that because we're such a strong welfare system now that we've become a welfare state, of course, we look back and many of us will be saying, look, let's just get rid of the welfare system altogether. Somehow trying to make that pendulum go into equal flowing the other way. But that is not the best way. We still want to keep our head, make sure that we're thinking clearly, not emotively. We're not looking to react. We want to bring things back into a more centrist way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand, because absolutely, I'm a Christian, and I believe in, taking care of those who fall, but I just wonder if it's meant to be more of an individual taken care of rather than a government.
No, you've actually pinged on something which I really do like, of course, because I think that one of the great things about capitalism is it actually allows and it strengthens people's desire and ability to be altruistic, to be what we would refer to as good, as charitable.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the great things about capitalism. I mean, again, I'll say we want to make sure that if a girl's got pregnant and the boy becomes a coward and runs away or something like that, we want to make sure that we can at least look up the mum to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
If somehow through the many myriad occurrences in life, there's a girl who's made silly, foolish decisions, and she's got that she's not going to have to be out on the street with a little baby. So for example, we have a particular facility. One of our ideas is to have a particular facility that would assist in that. I'm not sure if it's actually on the website, but one of our things is, so we would consider overhauling the DPB, replacing it with what we would refer to as an isolated parent benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So extended family support would be explored before any other options were made. So any new solo parents who would need financial assistance and had no family support, which is still rare to a degree, then we would require them to live in a live-in facility. They would receive a small weekly allowance, and that facility would ensure all the child's and parents' needs are met. So you've got intensive wraparound program, you've got training, counselling, long-term contraception support, and options, as well as some assistance with the mum getting out to get a job, any sort of upskilling, education needed. And so that's how we would look at it. We would overhaul the DPP to actually cut off a lot of that funding and add it into such facilities.
Mm-hmm. No, that sounds actually, it's especially a lot better than what we have now. I think with my idea of taking away, because it wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be this year. If let's say I became somehow Prime Minister in a year and I had all the power in the world, right? I would never strip New Zealand of welfare just done. I think it's got a few things. It needs cultural changes, like you were talking about the man just up and leaving the woman. That needs a really big cultural change, and I think it's a really big problem, especially among the youth, of men just up and leaving and not caring about their kids. So absolutely agree, needs an absolute overhaul. But I would say once you get the culture right, you can start to get and the morals right, you can start to get the economy right.
Yes, absolutely. Once that, and you're absolutely right. And it's, I mean, you've pinged on to one of the biggest things, and probably, the biggest thing for myself, and one of the biggest things for our party, which is if you do get the culture right, if the culture goes to the traditional, the family values, the idea of a contractually obligated relationship, raising children within that, then we have decisions that are being made with strength and with an outlook to the future. And all of the decisions most of the decisions that are made at those points actually go towards a stronger society, a stronger community. Mm-hmm. When we look around the world, any society that has does real well. I mean, if we want to look at social statistics again, or if we want to regard financial success as success, we can have a look at, for example, the Asian communities who are very successful. You look at their families, and their families, as a culture, they place an extremely high value upon that.
Yeah.
And not only that, when you look at places, and this is one of my biggest bugbears a little bit, when people say, oh, look over at some of the countries overseas where they've legalized drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that's a bit of a dumb idea anyway, but that's beside the point. When you look at the particular of the countries, and I think it's the Netherlands who do it, when you look at such countries and you say, they have legalized the drugs and it's absolutely fine. Well, you need to look a little bit closer, because at places like that, you'll find that their families stay together more, the marriages don't divorce as highly as us, and the children actually go out, most of them go out to a 50-kilometre radius from their family. So there's a strong suggestion that, hey, they like their family, they want to stick around. And whenever you get a family where the culture of the society holds family as a cornerstone,
Yeah.
then you've just got a stronger society. Kids won't grow up wanting to get weed and self-medicate and use coping methods such as and prostitution and the whole raft of pain that we in New Zealand seem to be okay with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's just jump off for a second to that issue of legalizing cannabis. Now, personally, I don't think it should have been illegalized in the first place, because I think it was fine how it was, but to legalize it now, especially with so many kids wanting to do it, I think can be very, very dangerous, and I don't think we should do it.
Like I said, I like how you said that it shouldn't have been made illegal in the first place. I mean, I've never thought about that as a question, as shouldn't have ever been made illegal. That would have been a very interesting question, actually, very interesting.
Yeah.
I would say that I would absolutely agree with you that making it legal at this stage, where we have so many fractured families, where we have a lot of ideologies coming in that are absolutely inane when it comes to strengthening families, that making it legal now is just idiocy. It really is idiocy. And for every Point Chevalier, St. Helier's person who's going to have a nice little toke with his lovely friends and they're just going to have a bit of a laugh and watch some sort of artsy film afterwards. Then again, most of my work has been South Side Auckland, West Side and East Side Auckland. And over here, you make it legal here, and we're asking for such an amount of pain to be delivered onto our streets, and what we've seen so far will not compare to what we will see.
Yeah.
So, and I had a bit of a head-to-head with Chloe Swarbrick on Twitter about this, and we had some head-to-heads, and she finally said, oh, well, show me your evidence. So I did, and I sent through just only about 4 or 5 links to various studies that I had read. And no comeback whatsoever.
Yeah.
Why? Because she's got no idea about the real world that lives out there.
Yeah.
She's come from an era where, and no offense to anyone else who is this sort of age, but when you've got someone who 10 years ago was just in the starting high school or anything like that, when you watch what happens when a young person murders someone because they've mixed weed and alcohol, or if you slowly watch the slow demise of a whānau because the kids are drugged out hard, and we're not even talking about people, just stoned. They're running around school stoned, they're driving around stoned, nothing extra, and you can see that their lives just get worse and worse and worse. Not better, not no violence, none of that. So a lot of those ones have no idea what they're talking about. And then you've got a large group of people who really do just want to smoke weed. And for a lot of them, I'm actually cool with. Actually, I tell them quite straight, no
Yeah.
But we should always be so careful, because if we are looking at legalizing or decriminalizing anything, what we should be looking at are how impactful in a negative way is this going to affect our community? What are the negative effects? Don't worry about we're going to get heaps of money from the tax, because that's not the way we should be looking at it. We should be looking at what is the damage going to be for our community. And the greenies, that's why it's so crack up. The greenies are saying, "Oh no, don't worry, we'll have heaps of money from it." Well, that's sort of like saying, "Well, how about you smash open the earth and pull out coal out of the ground? Because hey, you'll get lots of money." And suddenly that sort of argument gets a little bit lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, talking about Chloe Strawbrick, and I don't want to attack her because, I mean, she's not here to defend herself, but I was talking to her on Twitter, and she was talking about how it's healthy for you, and then I went, what study shows that? And the thing I find with people who, I don't want to say the left, because I think there's a lot of people on the left who are good at this kind of stuff, but I'd say progressive left. The people on the progressive left, they don't give arguments. They just put out statements, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
In university, which I'm in at the moment, I was just doing a critical thinking course. And there's arguments, and then there's just statements, and that's all they put out. They don't, because arguments contain evidence inside of them. But theirs doesn't contain any evidence in it, and in fact, I was looking up, I don't know how accurate this is, but I was looking up on I think it was a psychology one, and there were studies done that actually linked in men cannabis use without any alcohol, any other kind of drugs, without smoking or anything. It linked cannabis use to prostate cancer. And I mean, I'm not like, if you want to go out and hurt yourself, I guess I don't really want you to, but I guess, I mean, freedom is freedom. But the argument that it is good for you is what I was getting at there.
Oh yeah, stupid. Especially if you're going to smoke it. It's just And the other element of it as well is that the weed that they'll be bringing out is not the weed of the 90s or the O's or even now. It won't be that. It'll be very intense. It'll be very well cultivated to really score that big hit.
Yeah, look at K2. I mean, I mean, we've been talking about welfare a lot and drugs a lot. I want to jump into loan sharks.
Loan sharks.
Yeah, they're fun, aren't they?
Yep.
So, what? I guess because I've read it and I don't quite understand what the policy exactly is on loan sharks.
What is a loan? I haven't been on our website, but I'll give you our policy regarding loan sharks if you'd like.
Yeah.
So lenders cannot secure loans using unemployment beneficiary income without written approval from WINS.
Yeah.
Companies that violate this law get fined.
Mm-hmm.
Protecting beneficiaries from poor financial decisions, loan sharks themselves, of course. This policy also protects taxpayers and ensures that beneficiary income is not wasted on paying high interest. We would like to see maximum interest rates charged by any lender to be set at 15% above the OCR.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm actually kind of with you there. Would you think it should be illegal? Because I know that people have put this out, that someone who's loaning money should be illegal for them to give money to somebody who can't afford the loan.
I mean, yes, I think so, but then it's about the definition of that. What are the variables needed to indicate that someone can't pay off the loan? And so, because from my understanding anyway, that we have it so that you shouldn't be doing it anyway.
Yeah.
When it comes to, I mean, we say loan sharks, but they're legal, and we know of ones right off the back of our hand of various groups who are out there who aren't actually illegal lenders, but you're sitting there thinking, you're purchasing a TV, you're purchasing a boat, a car, and you really shouldn't be. So when it comes to that, the lenders themselves, it's bad business practice for most of them to actually have a bad customer, someone who's not going to pay back their debts. And on the whole, they won't let out their funds to people like that. So, for example, if you go for a lending and you have a lot of TAB withdrawals from your bank account when they're searching through, quite a few lenders will just, you're gone. They will not lend to you straight off the bat. They just won't.
Yeah.
In saying that, you've also got the other elements where a small business person will be in debt. They will show a great deal of debt, but because of the other variables that they have, they will be a good person to loan money to. So then you've got that sort of those variables that actually make what should be black and white actually a lot more grey as well.
Yeah.
So the rules there are very not convoluted, but they are complicated. That's why we sort of just ease things back and we made it a bit more simple so that we could have something which is easy to understand and covers a lot. So that's why we say 50% above OCR, and we would actually punish those who we would find which are skirting the code of conduct rules around lending to someone who they shouldn't lend to.
Yeah.
And so for myself, my biggest, I think one of the most insidious and biggest dramas that we have are those horrific red trucks or dead trucks. The home direct, the groceries straight to your door type of thing. So not.
I literally have one right across the street from me right now. So. Pop the tires. So because those trucks, I've seen them. I have worked with the children of their clients, and I've even done home visits where I've turned up. I remember turning up to a home visit a year and a half ago, and this family had brand new LED TVs that looked like a 50-inch. They had couple of beautiful lounge suites, sofa and a chair. It was beautiful, just gorgeous. I was thinking, how did you buy that stuff? And because the children who I was dealing with were hungry, and I mean hungry, as in they did not eat much. I ended up having to use a particular formula just to beef one up a bit, and so these guys, they prey on the vulnerable in terms of those who are easily misled. And I would actually go back to what I said right at the start, probably, is that this is actually where a wonderful, but a horrific sense of inexperience occurs. Because if you've got a people group who have had economics for 200 years, maybe 150, yeah,
they haven't, and then you may come across another group who've had economics for 1,500 years.
yeah,
Then the growing up stages, the development, the lessons passed on, the painful, horrific lessons are passed on. They don't get passed on the way they do from the other group. So it's much easier to say, hey, look, I'm here to help you. I've got all the stuff here. You've got to, look, you got a nice place. You deserve good things. How about you come over, just sign your name here, and this is all. It's just going to be $50 a week from your benefit to pay it off. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Not a problem. Don't worry about it. It's so easy to suck a group in when they don't know about percentage rates. Oh, what does PA? What does this per annum mean?
yeah,
So partially there's a tough learning curve that needs to be learned chop real fast. That's not being learned, and on the other stage as well, allowing cowboys to just be cowboys, or rather cowboys to be bandits, is actually part of the problem they will have as well.
yeah. Well, I mean, would it be advantageous to to if they know that they're getting a high risk person, someone who can't pay it off, in court, and like when they go to court for it, right? Would it be advantageous to say, look, you knew at the moment of the loan that this would not be able to be paid off, therefore you don't get your money back?
One of the trucks will give about 3 tin cans of fish that would cost you and I around about maybe $2 in a store, on special, something like that.
Yeah.
I'll wrap them up for 3, and then they'll charge it out at around about $10-12.
Yeah.
And so if you are a vendor of one of these trucks and you are chucking on not 200, about 2,000% onto goods that you're on selling,
Yeah.
then you wouldn't. I don't know this for sure, but I wouldn't bother taking to court, because once I get a first couple of payments before they will inevitably fail, no worries. I've got my money back from what I spent on the little tin cans of fish, and I've actually made something like a couple of 100% profit anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't care. It's written off, and boom, I just move on to the next victim, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I would suspect that they don't even take people to court, because what's the point?
No, I mean like the major loans. So for example, let's say $20,000, right?
Right.
And let's say you're getting a car, and they say, and you say, you give all your details, and it's obvious you can't pay it off, right? And so 2 years later, they come back to your house. They say you're going to court. Would it then be advantageous to do that? Because then that's going to deter them from doing that in the future, to give money to people who can't afford it.
There would have to be enough dodgy lenders out there. And while I haven't seen the stats themselves, I do have quite a few contacts in the financial service, in the finance industry. And there doesn't seem to be that many who are so dodgy as that is. It's a little industry where they'll just lend and wait for them to default and then grab everything back.
Yeah.
Because and part of it, so for example, car lending as an example, just to put out there, most lenders will have attachments to it. So they'll have different layers of a client who's wanting to borrow. And so they'll, it's either yes, no problem, or it's a no problem. And in between that, there are layers. So for example, you might have the finance company say, right, yes, we'll allow it, but we're going to stick a GPS on the car because we're not sure if it's going to go through.
Yeah.
And when you do get to such amounts, it's actually not good business to have a person default on the loan, because the costs getting the vehicle back and the drama is just not great. It's just not good business, basically.
Yeah.
And for any lender who would be trying to be dodgy by doing this purposely, I'm pretty sure I would have come across it a number of times. However, if you are talking now, that's a sort of a different subject. Then I was going to talk about the dodgy private people who are selling on the private. But it's a whole different barrel of fish, really. But when it comes to lending, most of them are not. I actually think that most of them are not too bad. There are some ethical or perhaps moral things that need to be queried, but I think that most of them aren't too bad, because they want that money. And if someone keeps defaulting or not paying back, then it cuts out the point of the whole exercise.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Let's quickly, because we haven't got much more time left, let's quickly move on to the immigration policy, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So, with your immigration, you say in your immigration that you want a net zero immigration policy.
Yep.
So that'd be no immigration.
No immigration.
Yeah.
Rather net immigration. So at the moment we still have a huge amount of issues with housing. It hasn't been fixed up, and we didn't expect it to be fixed up by Labour stuff. So what we go for is what we would call a net immigration, or net zero immigration rather, which means, say last 50,000 people leave New Zealand, no problem. Then we would allow 50,000 in this year, or
All
for
right.
the next viable incoming amount, so that you would have a net amount kept at zero, as opposed to maybe 20,000 people leave and 110,000 people come in. So
Right.
that's what that net zero is about. The idea is that as people go out, then it gives a much easier ability to build houses. Because of course, when it all boils down to it, the main problem with the housing in New Zealand is that there's just not enough. That's the main problem. So it gives us time to actually replenish the housing stock to get up to levels where we can go back to just getting to allowing immigration levels to go back to what we refer to as normal, as long as we're getting the best quality immigration or immigrant that we can.
Yeah.
I would add to it as well that now this is of course won't be a surprise to you, but one thing that we would add to our immigration policy is that we would immediately exit from the UN Migration Pact.
Yes.
Immediately.
Absolutely. No, that one, because then they get to, isn't it that they get to make the amount of people who can come in?
So is that the immigration pact you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the pact basically is well, pretty much is open borders, effectively. So, people will come in and then they will be, each country is to give them assistance and hand in terms of we're not even talking about really integrating, but more utilizing the resources of the country in the same way that you would for a citizen.
Yeah.
As well as you would also have the media being, I'm trying to think of the quote, sensitizing and educating the media, I think is the quote.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that you would basically compel the media to be pro-immigrant, pro-migrant, not immigrant, but pro-migrant. As well as also the pact also expands on the discrimination and what we would refer to, or what some refer to as hate laws in New Zealand. So that would also mean that anyone who speaks against migration or migrants will therefore be penalised, their speech will be compelled to be pro-migration rather than anything else, really,
Right.
or any sort of criticism as well, which of course is the scary stuff. And there's a whole raft of them as well. And the other part of it, of course, is that it's the second worst part, I think, is that it does not qualify a legal migrant to an illegal migrant. So both are pretty much the same. It doesn't matter. If you get here, you get here. Whether you've got a suicide vest, whether you've got doctor's tools, whether you've got a gun, whether you've got an entire ability to help a lot of people, it doesn't matter. Everyone just rolls in. That's a problem. That's
Right.
not what migration should be about.
No.
Actually.
No.
And the biggest one above all, of course, which we are staunchly opposed to, is that we are being given a direction by a foreign corporation, which
Right.
of course is a group of countries that don't even have a land, but that take money from the middle class of the entire world,
Yeah.
including us, of course. So I could just rant on about that one. That one, I hate that migration pact is a disgusting, insidious document that really is a replacement of our sovereignty.
I'm
And
with you.
the one where they say it's not binding is, yes, that's actually correct. Winston Peters sat there and says, oh, it's not binding. He's correct. But what it says is, it's a promise by the sovereign nation to make it binding. So they're playing games with the wording.
Yeah.
They're absolutely,
One last question, then we'll go. The new it says in the website for immigration policy, it says the new Conservatives will ensure there is no acceptance or allowance of Sharia law in any expression, as well as any non-constitutional jurisdictional authority in New Zealand. My concern is the word expression. Does that mean you wouldn't be able to be pro-Sharia, or?
No, we would never be pro-Sharia. In terms of expression, any expression of anything, as long as it is within the New Zealand law, the New Zealand Constitution, or the uncodified Constitution that we have,
Yeah.
New Zealand law, is absolutely fine. Not a problem. If you are Fa'a Samoa, for example, it's absolutely fine to come in here and
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So thank you for joining me here today. It's been amazing to talk to you. It's been really enlightening. I'd love to do this again sometime.
Yeah, awesome.
So yeah, we'll sort that out and we'll get more policy, more everything. Because I think we've only like scratched the surface of your whole policy, all your policies at the moment. So again, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Lincoln.
See ya.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.